It's 111 still. Let's do it. All right, everybody. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Over Sharon Show, the best darn show on the internet. You're getting very sleepy. This is a pendulum that I got recently. It's a skull.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm very excited about it. Yeah, what's up, Sharon? How you doing today? I'm so excited about this topic, the Tao Te Ching. I can't even believe, I was, even last night, it was like Christmas morning. I couldn't sleep because I can probably talk for hours about everything. And
yeah. I know we're gonna dive deep and we'll see where it goes. I'm excited.
I have a couple of pretty crazy synchronicities that I'd like to talk about. So just remind me, I guess.
Okay.
After we do the quote, we could do that. Because we don't, you know what? Why don't we break pattern, right? Somebody who we know always talks about breaking pattern. So the quote right away. I just want to share these crazy synchronicities.
Yeah, since we're catching up anyway, and we're waiting for people to show up. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah. One of them was yesterday. Elizabeth went to the dentist. She found this holistic dentist, and it's about 45 minutes away. So we took a ride there, and she came out, and then we found a place to go hiking. But on the way, we stopped to grab some food, and I just found a place through Google. I was looking through some places, and they happen to have these halibut tacos as their special. And she told me that the lady, one of the dental hygienists, said that they were having halibut tonight, and Elizabeth was thinking to herself, oh, I haven't had halibut in forever, it would be great. And she didn't say that to me after, but until we got there and she ordered it, and she's like, I can't believe that. So that happened, and then the total for everything was 6119.
Nice.
61. So it's upside down and it's backwards, right? And it's got an 11 in the middle.
It's almost like a palindrome, but upside down type. Interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And then what was the other synchronicity I was going to tell you about? That was pretty crazy. I'll think of it, but I did also want to mention how you went to go see a Yankees game last night.
Yeah.
And the score was 7-2, the final score, which is my birthday.
That's your birthday. I forgot. Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah, isn't that nuts? What was the other crazy synchronicity? Something else happened. I don't know. I guess I'll read the quote, and then I'm sure it'll come back to me as soon as I stop trying to think about it. That's how it works.
We've been seeing syncs too. I see, when we pay for something and I look at the tab, it's not 6611, but it's like that, it's like numbers like that show up in the final tab. It's funny.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out. Might have been something else. Well, I'll figure it out as we go. But anyway, so I guess I'll bring up the quote. Just fun. I always like to share my fun synchronicities with everybody. The halibut thing was crazy though. Who the heck has halibut tacos? I've only heard fish tacos or whatever. I was I think you manifested this. And the name of the place was Black Rock. It was Black Rock Tavern.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how she's really into crystals, and Black Rock's kind of like obsidian, you could say, or whatever. I mean, so.
Nice.
Oh, I remember another thing. Guess what street it was on? Route 222.
Nice.
So yeah, it was delicious.
222.
All right, let's get this quote up then, and we'll get in gear. There you go.
All right. So our quote today, and I've sent this into our chat, it was by a man named Giancarlo Menotti. Pardon me. I don't know who this is, but the quote allegedly says, a man or a woman only becomes wise when he begins to calculate the approximate depth of his ignorance. Ain't that the truth?
I'm just
what are you snacking on right now?
Some grapes. Yeah, I love that quote because it kind of follows along with the theme here, where it's we're ignorant here, kind of. We don't think we know. We're just seeing a lot of patterns and synchronicities in the Tao has tons of them. For me anyway, in my life. But yeah, I guess I should have got these cards ready quicker. Whoa.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
got the Oak deck today. I'm excited. And what was I gonna say? Yeah, so it's more, obviously I mean, we'll get to it, but one of my favorite verses in the Tao is those who know don't talk, those who talk don't know.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows, we plan on covering as many as we can today, as far as verses, but we're not sure how far we're going to get because we have like 4 different versions of each verse.
4 different versions, and we have enough to cover 3 verses today. So
Yeah.
if we get to the 3, we do. If not, we'll just keep going next time.
Here you go. Here's a card for you.
Swords. How many?
9.
I figured it was the 9.
Here, I think if I turn, oh no, that works out well. I'll just pin myself. There we go. The 9 of Swords.
Very nice. Wow. It's dripping blood, isn't it?
It is.
Droplets of blood. And that background, that's an interesting background.
With all those shapes and everything.
Yeah.
Put it there sideways so we can see it. And there's, yeah, I like to put it upside down too, because it looks like when it's upside down, it looks like it's raining fire or something down.
Okay.
This card is a great card upside down.
That is a cool card upside down.
Yeah, so 9s, I mean, 9's the number of the ego, right? I mean, so when you're talking about 9 of Swords, sometimes depending on the reading that you're doing, you could view it in a way where it's like your ego is at its max, right? It's and it's because if you think about the ego, I think it does have more to do with swords and air, because it's mostly ideas, right? It's like you have this intuitional feeling, and that's the water, and then this air comes in, and it's like, no, that's not how it should be, right? The air is trying to blow the water one way. And so I think with this card, it's kind of signifies an end, or some kind of maybe what's the word I'm looking for, like crescendo. No, what happens when it's in the book and it's like the high point in the book?
Oh, the climax of a story.
Yeah, like the climax. Yeah, so I think it's cool because we're getting the end at the beginning, because we're starting off today with number 1 and we pull a 9, so it's kind of like it reminds me of the Wheel of Time. I think the name of the first book is The End at the Beginning or something like that. It's really good.
Oh, you started reading that, right?
Yeah, I started listening to it.
At the suggestion of Balderson, was it?
Yeah, Balderson, also Nick Woodshop also recommended, I believe, and a couple other people. But I saw that yesterday on Instagram. Nick got the second book. I think he got it as a gift from his kids and his wife and stuff. And so I posted on there, I'm like, I just finished listening to this yesterday. There's another synchronicity for you. I just finished listening to book 2. It's pretty good. I would have to say, some people say, I hate to compare and say, oh, this is better than that, or this is whatever. I think it's kind of more in depth than Lord of the Rings. It's just more descriptive, and like the time, everything is pretty much covered more. But as far as Dune in this, I don't know. I really do like it, but I can't say that I like it more than Dune. But it is pretty good. But again, I haven't listened to everything, so I don't know yet. But some of the ways that they have characters leave and then come back and you think they're dead, but you're not quite sure. It's pretty cool. The twists and turns that it takes. There's some pretty good twists. So, but yeah, that's Wheel of Time, Robert Jordan. So check it out if you want. And I'm sure if Balderson wanted me to get into it, now Nick's getting into it, there might be a podcast about it.
Yeah. I don't know about me. I
Yeah,
don't know when I'll finally get to something like that, since I'm still behind on all the other ones.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's funny. That's something I wanted to kind of talk about too, because I was thinking about this yesterday, because it feels sometimes like it's escapism, or I'm like addicted to this book because I'm listening to it with a lot of my free time or whatever. Or if I'm driving, I'll be listening to it a lot, which I've been doing a lot of driving. So, but I thought about it. It really is, it's kind of like helping me to write a fiction novel or a series, because I'll have the influences. It's sort of like how movies are influenced by other movies, and now like the inversion of that is just to remake the movie, which everything's getting remade, right? But the way it used to happen was you'd have a movie or a bunch of movies like
They
that.
inverse everything too.
What's that?
I said they inverse everything too.
Yeah, they really do. But I think the natural progression of how that works is probably the way it works with literature as well. But we're just taking movies because more people are familiar. But if you have a lot of movies that are big hits in the 70s and the 80s, some of those movies are going to be very heavily influenced, right? So look at like Star Wars, and then later you have like, other space movies that I can't really even think of at this moment. But you just have this, it's like a kind of like how Dune influenced Star Wars. And I'm thinking that to get all these ideas, like the whole Tolkien thing and then Dune, and then to listen to these, it's going to influence my work. Not that I'll be stealing from it, but it's just going to open my mind to different possibilities and ideas. And so then I could kind of take the messages they contain in all these novels and then do it my own way, kind of like we do on the show. And maybe I can even make it like a very simple thing too, like digest it down to something even simpler, and maybe even something to do with modern times, who knows. But so that's what makes me feel not so bad about being addicted to audiobooks sometimes.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's what you like to do,
Yeah, totally. Well, the thing is, when you're doing a lot of this stuff that we do, and working on yourself or whatever it is, sometimes you start to feel like some things could be escapism. It's like, but that's the thing. And we talk about it all the time. A lot of these things could be escapism, or they could not be escapism, like it could be the same thing. It just depends on how it's done or who's doing it and all that stuff. So yeah,
exactly.
But I think it's probably a much healthier form of escapism than other stuff I used to engage in. So I'm not going to complain. But anywho, you're ready to dive on in?
Here we are. Yeah, I guess we definitely could do it.
Oh, what's up, Spoons? How you doing? Spoons is in the chat.
Yes, Spoons was came in, and I said hi while you were speaking. So
awesome, cool. All right, well, let's pull up our beautiful. See, Sharon, this is why I love her. She made some beautiful slides, and we're gonna share them with you now. There we go. Overshare
the Tao Te Ching,
DDJ, or AKA the Tao Te Ching, or Tao, and then or even the Tao Te King. I like how you put that. So cool.
Yeah, because I saw so many variations,
Yeah.
So I just figured I would just put them all in kind of one place, because I personally prefer with the D, and the J, because if that's the closest way to pronounce it, that that would make sense. So
I have I just had a meeting with somebody, a wedding meeting, and one of the people, maybe it's her aunt that's going to be introduced. I think she's Asian. I didn't ask what flavor brand, I guess I could have, but and her aunt apparently is Asian too by the name, and her last name is like Tao. They say it Tao, but it's Tao. So
okay, yeah, and it's like, why? I wish they would have, because it's a character in Chinese, so like, why not use a more faithful character to represent the sound that it actually makes? Because is it Jing or is it Ching? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Or is it King? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I like that idea. All right.
So
go ahead.
What I did here was to take 4 different versions, and they don't all fit. so I decided to just put 2 on one slide and 2 on another slide. And the way it happened was it's just happened this way. I didn't plan it, but it's kind of cool. The first one is like a 1980 something, right? 1988 for Stephen Mitchell is when he published. And then the one on the right is Dwight Goddard, and he published in 1919. Well, on the next page, I have the Stan Rosenthal, which was 1984, but it was still like 80s, like the one above it, like the, yeah.
Mhm.
And then the Aleister Crowley, I estimate that his was written in the 1920s, just based on what he was saying in that introduction that we read.
Oh yeah, yep.
And of course, it was posthumously published because it was found and then, put out to the public. But that was 1976 when Brandon was born.
That's
But
right.
I'm pretty sure it was sometime in the 1920s, which is like really close to when Dwight Goddard did. So it's just kind of interesting how I just happened to pick these. Brandon likes the Stephen Mitchell version, and then I've just found the other 3 I had. So yeah, that's kind of what I did. And it's funny because the Stephen Mitchell doesn't have a title for each verse, but the other 3 do. So the title for verse 1 for Dwight Goddard is "What is the Tao?" And you can kind of see, if you go down to the next slide, you can see what the title is for so the embodiment of Tao and the nature of the Tao. So you can see kind of the variations of what this verse is going to be talking about, the embodiment, the nature of it, what it is. So
I like that. Yeah, you also can get an idea of the context then,
absolutely, yeah.
All right,
So,
cool. So I'll read the first one if you'd like.
okay.
The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnamable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught up in desire, you see only the manifestations. Yet mystery and manifestation arise from the same source. The source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding.
And another thing I wanted to say is it took me a little bit longer to put these slides together because I wanted to kind of put the same kind of pieces at the same eye level, so you could see how one says it versus the other, because not all of them, some people can be a little bit more wordy than others. And it just happened to be the case that Stephen Mitchell, like I said, I didn't even plan this, but Stephen Mitchell and Dwight Goddard's version tend to have similar lengths. But if you look at the next one, the next slide, just for purposes of comparison, you can see how Stan Rosenthal's very verbose and
Yeah.
Aleister Crowley's very. So the 2 people that were most similar are the first slide, and then the second slide is the most verbose and the least verbose.
Oh, I like that. That's
Isn't that
really,
funny?
yeah. That's a
Just
cool
happened to do that.
comparison. I like that.
So I will read Dwight Goddard's, and it says, "What is the Tao?" Okay. Once I read it, I kind of want to talk about how they compare, like next to each other, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Tao that can be understood cannot be the primal or cosmic Tao, just as an idea that can be expressed in words cannot be the infinite idea. Feel like we talked about this before.
With truth.
And yet this ineffable Tao, so I think ineffable is like unexpressible, like you can't express with words. So yet this ineffable Tao was the source of all spirit and matter, and being expressed was the mother of all created things. And just as a teaser, I think this really helps me understand what Aleister Crowley was saying actually in the next slide, but we'll see. Therefore, not to desire the things of sense is to know the freedom of spirituality, and to desire is to learn the limitation of matter. These two things, spirit and matter, so different in nature, have the same origin. This unity of origin is the mystery of mysteries, but it is the gateway to spirituality.
I like how they both use the word gateway here at the end.
Oh, interesting. Good call. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, and now see in the Stephen Mitchell version, he's saying the source is called darkness, darkness within darkness, and he's calling it mystery. So I like how they're looking at it in different ways.
Right.
Right.
It kind of helps just give more context, right?
Yes, 100%. And then the gateway to all understanding, as opposed, but is the gateway to spirituality.
I mean, that makes sense. That those one gives context to the other, you know?
Yes. And I think that Stephen Mitchell should have said the gateway to all comprehension.
Yes, good call.
That's for another podcast. But yeah, and then also in the Stephen Mitchell version, I like that he uses darkness, because if you think of darkness and you think of the yin and yang, the great symbol that I put on my head for the thumbnail, you have the dark and the light, and the dark is representation of the feminine. And in, like we read last week, if you guys go check out that one in the introduction, it talks about how the Tao is one of the most feminine of all the great works. It's the most feminine. And I think right here in the first verse, you could get a look at that with the darkness within darkness. So it's basically what we don't understand, but it's where the creation begins and it comes from, which is the whole feminine thing, right? You know, the womb.
Yeah. And in fact, that is what Aleister Crowley is saying in one of the pieces of the verse.
Amazing. I do kind of want to go ahead.
You go ahead.
I was going to say, I want to go through a little bit and just break down what I think these mean, but we could go read the other versions, and then we could take them verse by verse and then kind of break down what we think they mean if we want.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping to do.
Perfect. All right, here we go.
Do you want to read the verbose one, or do you want to read the shorter one?
It does not matter to me. I could read the verbose one if you'd like.
Sure.
The embodiment of the Tao. Even the finest teaching is not the Tao itself. Even the finest name is insufficient to define it. You know, this really reminds me of like the name of God, how you're not supposed to say it. Well, maybe it's, you can't say it. There's no way to encompass it with one word, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you know, allegedly. Without words, the Tao can be experienced, and without a name, it can be known. To conduct one's life according to the Tao is to conduct one's life without regrets, to realize that potential within oneself, which is of benefit to all. Though words or names are not required to live one's life this way to describe it, words and names are used that we might better clarify the way of which we speak, without confusing it with other ways in which an individual might choose to live. Through knowledge, intellectual thought, and words, the manifestation of the Tao are known, but without such intellectual intent, we might experience the Tao itself. Both knowledge and experience are real, but reality has many forms which seem to cause complexity. By using the means appropriate, we extend ourselves beyond the barriers of such complexity and so experience the Tao. You know, I like this because it feels like it's more of like a sciencey approach to it, right? Like you know, like if we were gonna assign a cup, or I'm sorry, if we were gonna, because we have 4 versions, so if we were gonna assign a suit, I would say this is like the swords version, you know.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's hitting you intellectually, you know, it's hitting you everywhere. We're in fully explaining it, kind of like, you know, like a nerd
Mental plane.
like me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. If you can think of the other the other suits for the other ones. That'd be funny.
Yeah, I'm just guessing that Aleister Crowley is probably going to be fire. The Stephen Mitchell version is probably water, and the other one I would say is earth. But I'll keep those ideas as I
Okay,
go.
it's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, I'm
Very
glad
cool.
I thought about that and the whole thing. It's just all these words, like you were saying. It is like it's the expression, and it's trying to explain it to people. It's like trying to explain the unexplainable, right?
Yes. Yes. And some people can do it in like, they can do it very concisely. And then some people like me are more verbose.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So, Aleister Crowley's verse 1 is about the nature of the Tao. It says, the Tao path is not the all Tao. This makes me think of the All Father, the name is not the thing named. Honestly, if I were to write it, I would write the Tao path and I would put a little small t maybe on the Tao path. Because it's just talking about the pathway to, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, unmanifested, here's the little teaser that I was talking about. Unmanifested, it is the secret father of heaven and earth. Manifested, it is their mother. To understand this mystery, one must be fulfilling one's will. And if one is not thus free, one will but gain a smattering of it. The Tao is one, and the day but a phase thereof, or the te or the day. The abyss of this mystery is the portal of serpent wonder. This is very, very interesting, esoteric, and kind of cryptic. But he was, as we read in the intro, he was using Kabbalistic thoughts to interpret, shall I say, the Tao. So,
Yeah, totally. And a quick word about Aleister Crowley, because everybody has something to say or whatever. Everyone's got an opinion, which we understand. But I kind of, and I'm sure Sharon agrees, I feel like even if he was this crazy person who was trying to do all these evil things, despite all that, a message got out there, or an understanding for people. And I think if you could understand and embody the Tao, then it's going to help you in any way. So even if he was just throwing things out there and trying to be this like chaos lord, like Loki or whatever, despite all what he wanted to do, this is what happened, just like the Tao. The wheel weaves as the wheel turns, like that's what they say in that Wheel of Time book all the time when something happens and someone's like, oh, I wish it happened this way. And they're just like, the wheel weaves as the wheel turns. Like, it's just how it happened, man. This is how we got to go with it. And I love that. That's another great message of that whole book, and the way they deal with fear, kind of like Dune with the litany against fear. So anywho, yeah, it's just a little bit about Aleister Crowley. I do like how it's so concise. It's funny, like you said, you're looking at he used like 2 short lines to kind of encapsulate what Stan Rosenthal used like a paragraph to say.
He's getting close to the Chinese, right? Because this whole book in Chinese is 5,000 characters.
Exactly.
Right? So what's interesting about the way Aleister Crowley did this, and I think this only happens in verse 1, in the book, I guess he drew out like a Kabbalistic tree of life. And I went and searched for a picture of that, and I had to go to the Kindle version of the sample so that I could see this, because I couldn't find it. So I took a screenshot of the sample of the book. So if Brandon wants to go to the next slide, we could just see it really quickly. And you can see how it contains the I Ching within it. Maybe you can zoom out a little bit, Brandon.
Yeah, good idea. The share thing's in the way, so I got to move it.
Okay.
Whoops. There we go. Let me just make it. Yeah, that's too big. Okay, cool. There we go.
Yeah. So the top, the Tao, where it has the top of the Kabbalistic tree of life. And what is it? 3, 6, 9. So this is 11, right? And I think I've heard Mark Passio talk about this with the cards, the tarot cards in the tarot deck. And this is the 11, right? I don't know why I'm saying that, because it just popped into my head. But the other thing this Tao, the top one, reminds me of is what Mario Garza was talking about when we talked to him about the pole star and the polar,
yeah.
right? Because it's the sun, the aspect of like nowadays they use it as a representation of the sun, but before it was a representation of the North Star, the pole star.
Yeah, I love that. Good call, Sharon.
And then go ahead.
I was just going to say something that I've heard once about the tree of life and the Kabbalistic mind frame or whatever, is they said that there's 10 Sephirah, and the saying is not 9, not 11. Have you ever heard that? It's crazy. I think I heard Mark Passio or somebody say that, even though they do use the 11 for this. But I guess in some circles, that's what they'll say. They'll say there's 10, not 9, not 11. I remember I told my friend that once, and it was like, damn. Yeah. Like, right. Yeah. More 9/11 coding.
That's weird.
Some perversion, Balderson says. Oh, and by the way, I just want to say we got Benjamin Balderson, Gordy Two Shoes in our chat, Cosmic Lichens, Joe, Spoons, Cody. I mean, we only have like 7 people watching, or maybe a little more. I didn't check, but the quality of the people watching, it's like an all-star chat. You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone in here is like real people that we know, and they're all like based as fuck. So it's great. I don't mind not having a giant audience at all. You know, if this is our audience, it's amazing.
I know. I'm happy about that.
It's like we're jesters who play for just the king and the king's court, whereas some performers might perform for like thousands of people. You know, we're just
yeah.
We're the king's just
Baldy is saying this is a broken tree. There are more than that. I figured.
Yeah.
And then he said they at best use a 2-piece tree instead of a single tree, and they call the root the tree of death. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. We have to get next time we get Balderson on, maybe we could talk about the tree of life.
Yeah. So I also noticed, not that I noticed this, but I think it was mentioned in the book that you have the I Ching in each one of all of the other, I guess, spheres. I don't know what you call those. What do you call them? Steps, spheres, Sephiroth. Each of those has I Ching, and the full line is a masculine, and then the dotted line is a feminine.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I didn't say this, but if you go back to where he says mother and father, or where does he scroll back up? He says, unmanifested is the secret father of heaven and earth. And under heaven and earth, he has, I think heaven was masculine and earth was feminine. So he had the one full line under heaven and then the dotted line under earth to represent the I Ching.
And what's in heaven? The pole star, or the pole, this masculine symbolism, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Amazing. All right. Well, let's go back up to the first one.
Yeah.
So this, again, it really reminds me of how they say you can't say the name of God, or like we have said in the past, there's no way to know truth, there's no way to describe what truth is. You can only kind of point to what's untrue. And I think it's because it's the great mystery that we all have to just accept. Well, okay, I'll put it a different way. It's the great mystery that once I accepted that it was just a mystery that I couldn't know exactly, what God or what right religion was right or what it is. There's no real answer. You just kind of have to know it for yourself, right? Because I think it's different for everybody. And I kind of think that's what this is hinting at.
Yes, absolutely. Or just like I can't remember if I said it last week but I've said it before. That whole um when Moses came down the mountain and they had made a golden calf, he was pissed because they represented God as this little calf, and he's like, you can't even represent God like at all. So how are you going to just whittle it down to like, oh, he's a golden calf? That's just an example of how I understand this. Like, you can't express what God is. You just can't. It's ineffable, as they say in this Dwight Goddard's version.
You're putting the golden calf on a pedestal.
Yes. Yeah.
And once that, you got to slaughter that sacred golden calf cow, right?
Good call.
So I guess we can come down here, look at these versions too. Now, again, Stan Rosenthal breaks it down, exquisitely with all these great words, and he really is trying to tell you it's insufficient to define it. Even the finest name is insufficient. Without words, the Tao can be experienced, and without a name, it can be known.
Yeah. So you don't need to have all those descriptions just to know God,
And it reminds me of people who want to have control of everything. And that's kind of what it is. Like, when you know that it's Jesus that you have to worship and you're fine. We've talked about this before. It's because you have to have control because you're afraid of the mystery, right? You have fear. Just back it up to fear, what it is. And, we say about fear, I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. And it's so true. You just accept the mystery and you could still have the experience and you could still know what it is, but you just can't put a name to it, because I feel like we're all having these individual experiences and no one can walk a mile in somebody else's shoe. This is your duty, is to do your duty while you're here, to live your life and follow the Tao, as they say, or do your Dharma, or follow the path of Jesus, whatever that means to you, right? It's like an allegory, the whole story of Jesus. And you could even look at his whole life as an allegory if you want, on how you should live. It doesn't mean you should go become a fisherman and throw all your possessions away and all this stuff, right? But it's like, how can you do it in each moment? How can you kind of embody that message that was given? So it's more about that stuff.
Yes.
And of course, Aleister Crowley keeps it nice and neat,
Yeah.
It's not the Tao. The Tao path is not all what it is. The Tao encompasses good and evil, as we'll get into later. It's all part of the fucking game, man. It's like puppets, right, on someone's hand, and you're like having a finger puppet fight with your two fingers. I think Sarcastic talked about that before in the Hindu religion. It's like we're all just kind of puppets. So we'll go back up to here. The unnameable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Now, I like this because he's basically saying in the beginning was the Word, right? And the Word was God and with God. Naming is the origin of all particular things. So once you give something a name, you actually create what it is, but you're really limiting what it is, right? If you see a cat, you're like, oh, that's a cat. Now everyone knows, oh, it's just a cat. But is that just a cat? No, it's like a crazy, beautiful representation of what God can do. The same with anything, a flower, a tree, a person, or no, we should say a man or a woman, right? A person too is just a different kind of creation, guys. It's, it's a fictional. But anyway, that's why I really like this too. And the unnameable is the eternally real. So it goes back again to, you can't say what truth is. You could just say what's not true, right? The unnameable is the eternally real. Anything that's eternally real, you can't put a name on it. It just is what it is. You just look at a tree and you just bask in the beauty, you know. No, it's
Yeah.
hippie, but I love it.
It makes me think of the truth needs no defense as well. That's what it kind of just made me think of that.
Yeah, 100%. And free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. And like I was told, Sharon, the Stephen Mitchell version is one of my favorites. It just really connects with me. So that's why I'm kind of expressing more about how I feel about what these verses mean from this version, but we'll check out the other ones too. But I really think it goes back to like what the Buddhists say about desire and stuff, where if you can have it all and you could be it all, it's just about how you treat it, right? So I'm trying to think of an example, like gambling, right? Like poker. I think that it's not that it's a sin to play poker or do anything like that. It just depends on how you're viewing it. Are you just doing it to have a good time and to relax and to, give yourself some mental stimulation and a little bit of company amongst friends and people? Or are you like I used to, like I would play poker nonstop. Like I would go to the casino like 3 or 4 times a week and play a bunch of tournaments or play whatever and go up there with friends. And yeah, it made me really good and it was good at the time, but there was other things that maybe I could have been doing. And again, I'm glad that that's the path that I chose, because once I woke up to the spirituality stuff, I started to spend more time doing that and then play poker less. But it made me a better poker player because I wasn't attached to the outcome. If I lost a hand, say I was in a tournament. So when you play poker and you get in a tournament, you basically pay an entrance fee and they give you a certain amount of chips. Everyone gets, say like 10,000 in chips, and you play those. And if you lose all your chips, you're knocked out, and you play down until there's like 10 people left. And then there's prizes for each as you get knocked out, right? So it could be like 100 or 200 people, and then you got to play down to like 10 or 15 people. So you could lose a hand toward the beginning or any time really in the tournament. You can lose a hand, but if you still have chips, you're still in it. Now, if you lose a hand and you get very upset about it, and this used to happen to me, and I see it happen all the time when I go play, you could then further, make bad decisions and then get knocked out of the tournament. But what I've noticed is when I'm playing and I just let each hand go, and even if I lose the hand and it was a hand I was supposed to win, and then like the river comes, poker, you get like the flop comes out, which are 3 cards in Texas Hold'em. There's a round of betting, and then the turn comes, and then the river. Well, sometimes you're way ahead, and then that one card comes on the end, and you get beat. And so you could be upset about it. You could be a victim, or like I would do, I would just say, oh, nice hand. This is what's going to happen. Now, what am I going to do going forward? Now I have a strategy, So I don't want to get too much into poker. Poker lessons are later, guys. If you need someone, But it's that same thing where I'm not attached to the outcome. I just realize that this is what's going to happen, and it helps me flow better. And in a lot of different things, even DJing, like life, love life, all these things, right? Anything we're doing, if you can realize to not get attached to the outcomes of what's going to happen and to just do your best and work your hardest, it's the kind of same thing. So when you're doing that, you're free from desire, and you can realize this mystery. But when you're caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. And what that kind of feels like to me is, I would hear Mark Passio or people like that talk about people are in the realm of effects, right? And they're out there in the world and they're trying to change things, but it's like jumping into a river and trying to stop the flow. Whereas if you wanted to stop the flow of a river, you could go up to its source where it's smaller and you could dam it or something like that, God damn it. And it's the same thing with the cause and effect. So when you're seeing only the manifestation, you're seeing only the effects. You're not looking at the causes of what's happening, and you're blaming all the effects. Like I tell people, I used to hit my head and I'd get mad at the wall or whatever, you know what I mean, or the low ceiling, or I'd spill coffee and I'd get mad at the universe or whatever it was. But it's like, no, I was the cause. Like we were saying in a couple episodes again, the common denominator was me and all these problems, right? And that's when you could realize the mystery, right? And yeah, do you have anything about that or whatever?
Well, didn't know if you were going to read through all that or if we were just going to go like piece by piece, because we didn't read the Dwight Goddard part of the second part of this. Did you want to do that?
Yeah, I figured we could do those two together, but yeah, we could do that. And then, so the Dwight Goddard, and yet this ineffable Tao was the source of all spirit and matter, and being expressed was the mother of all created things. Now, these two versions are totally different from each other in this aspect.
Right.
Right. But it's still saying how it's the source of all spirit and matter.
Yeah, because it's saying the first version, Stephen Mitchell is saying naming is the origin of all particular things. And if you think of origin, it is like a mother, right? So it's like, and being expressed was the mother of all created things. So that's how I see
the
it.
Source, like when we talk about source.
Yes. Yeah. There you go. Origin, source.
Yep.
God. Yeah.
Just like I said, the source of a river, right? It's where the river begins. It's the source of it. Therefore, not to desire the things of sense is to know the freedom of spirituality. And I like that because it says, free from desire, you realize the mystery. And this guy just gets a little more scientific, and it is kind of earthy. So I think I am going to stick with what I'm talking about, because this guy's kind of more down to earth, and he's just putting it out there for you. It's still pretty simply, though. Therefore, not to desire the things of sense is to know the freedom of spirituality. And it's the same thing. Like when you're not caught up in desire, right? You can know the freedom of spirituality.
Attachments, right?
Yeah.
I would say desire and attachments are like tied hand in hand.
Exactly. All right. And then we'll go down.
Desire is, oh wait.
Oh yeah, I didn't read. That's right. And to desire is to learn the limitation of matter.
And that's different because the other one says you see only the manifestations. And this one's talking about limits that matter have. I mean, it kind of goes back to what we said earlier, limitations of matter. Like it is a limitation because that's not what all God is. It's more than that.
Exactly. So Carrie, what's up, Carrie?
Yeah, Carrie's in the house.
Congratulations on your new spot. And congratulations on other things. We'll just say it that way. I'm not sure what you said to other people, but we're really happy for you guys.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Philip told us. Yeah, so I like that too, what you were saying, because it's like the realm of effects, right? You can't stop a speeding train, but you might be able to talk the conductor earlier in the day out of, or you might be able to bonk the conductor over a head before he gets in the train really easily. And then the train's not going anywhere. But once that train left the station, it's too late. You can't just stop in the middle of the train. You're going to get run over. And being in that world of effects is jumping onto the tracks instead of trying to stop the train. Whereas the realm of cause is, maybe you could slip something in the conductor's drink, slip him a Mickey, before he gets on the train or whatever. It's the same kind of thing. And in your life, I think that the effects or the causal plane is the mind. It's the mental plane. It's your idea. It's what you're telling yourself every day. It's like, are you telling yourself every day that I can never be an amazing podcaster like Brandon and Sharon? Well, that might be true, but you could come close if you practice a lot. No, or, whatever it is, I'm not good at this, or I'm not good at that, or I feel like it all comes down to these little things, these voices in our head, or whatever we tell ourselves. And that's the effect. Whereas the cause is out there in the real world. It's already happening, right? It's kind of like when you try to lose weight by going on a diet. Yeah, you could lose weight and you could go on that diet. But I think for me to figure out the underlying cause of why I wanted to eat all day and all night was a better plan for me. And then I kind of attacked it at its source. Whereas I've had dieted in the past, and yes, I have lost weight, but it never, would come back or whatever. And I'd gain that weight right back. because I didn't
It's
crush the true source.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this also reminds me, this piece, I mean, that whole part right there. But that last piece that says, and to desires to learn the limitation of matter, it makes me think of money doesn't bring happiness. It's like, yeah, once you're in this space of like, I want this, you're going to get to that point of like you said, you're going to do it till you're done, because you're going to learn that there's a limit. You're going to try to have as much food as you want, and you're still not going to be happy. You might even be mad at yourself, because then you gain all this weight or whatever, right? So you learn the limitations of matter. That's what I thought of.
Yeah, exactly. I was just reading the chat, but no, you're 100% right. And Carrie did announce it. She said, we're having another baby. Awesome.
Congratulations.
Doing dishes and mopping. We'll have fun doing that. I just did a bunch of housework earlier myself. So yeah, I'm a good little wife sometimes. I actually don't mind doing all that stuff. It's like dishes or laundry. Just for some reason it helps me get into like a meditative state, or I can even listen to an audiobook or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's when I listen to my like audiobooks or podcasts and stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to these versions. You want to read these?
Sure. So we're on that. Did we read that first one or not? We already did that part, right? We're doing the words or names.
Yep.
The words or names are not required to live one's life this way to describe it. Words and names are used that we might better clarify the way of which we speak, without confusing it with other ways in which an individual might choose to live. This is very different, I feel.
Yeah.
Very interesting. But again, the whole going back to like naming things, it's not required. We use it because we live in this realm where we kind of need those to, comprehend things better. So there you go, that we might better clarify.
Exactly. And I think what all these verses are kind of hinting at is, again, to not get attached to the words, or to not think you know it. All right. And I like how we say this, where I was saying this version represents swords, because it is cutting to everything. And it's, it's like in a kind of, well, I'll just say it this way. The other versions are more mysterious. They're not trying to explain it to you. They're trying to lead you a little bit. Whereas this guy is breaking it down totally for you as much as he can with as many words.
Yeah. And then I'll just go to the Aleister Crowley of that particular portion. Unmanifested, it is the secret father of heaven and earth. Manifested, it is their mother.
And I think it goes back again to the planes of causality and the planes of effects. Unmanifested is before, it's the causal plane. And when it's manifested, it's their mother. And it sounds a little inverted here, because you would think that the unmanifested is the feminine and the manifestation is the masculine, right? And I think that kind of plays on the polarity, where you get the whole sun and moon, and people kind of get it mixed up, and they'll say the sun is the masculine and the moon is the feminine. Mm-hmm. I think it's because the duality of this realm, and it's the way you can't really name a thing, like we were saying before, but they both have attributes of each other, where you can look at it and say, oh wait, this is masculine. Oh wait, no, this is feminine,
Yeah. And this goes back to like this Aleister Crowley version. If you go up to the Dwight Goddard version, I feel like they kind of have a similarity to them. You scroll up to the Dwight Goddard version. Yeah. And yet this ineffable Tao was the source of all spirit and matter, the source, right? And then being expressed was the mother of all created things. So there you go again, the source and then the mother, the origin, the source, the creating things.
And again, they're saying here where the expression is the female, where normally people might say that the expression or the thing that's out there is the masculine. But I think it kind of goes back to where I believe it was Benjamin Balderson who was breaking it down, where he said there's like the all, and then you break it down to masculine and feminine, and then one side you break that side. It might have been the feminine, where you break it down to masculine and feminine further. It kind of reminds me of how the nature of how this realm works, where we talked about before, with like holographs, and you could split them and all that stuff, where it's still the same holograph. So,
yeah.
All right, you want me to scroll back?
Did we do we did the through knowledge part, the top two, did we?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So through knowledge, intellectual thought, and words, the manifestations of the Tao are known, but without such intellectual intent, we might experience the Tao itself. Yeah, it's like it's like when it's like the mental plane and then the material plane, right? Through knowledge and intellectual thoughts and words, you can comprehend kind of what the Tao is about.
But I like how it says the manifestations of the Tao are known. So again, it's like looking back, hindsight is 2020, right? They say the Tao is a path. You could see how in the past, by using words and the intellect and all this stuff, you could see how the Tao plays out, and the manifestations are known. But without such intellectual intent, we might experience the Tao itself. So it's more about being in the present moment without naming things and without having to label them and without having to know. With accepting the mystery, you're actually experiencing the Tao itself as opposed to pointing the manifestations of it. It's kind of like if you had a light and you're making shadow puppets and people are pointing at the shadow puppets, that is the manifestation, but the source of it is the light, right? You go back to the light and you're like, oh, that's the true source. What do you think?
Yeah, when you were talking about manifestations of stuff, it made me think of like when people think of like gurus or like I mean maybe not prophets, but like people who work wonders, miracle healers and stuff like that, they think about those manifestations.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the manifestation doesn't mean that makes that person what they are, because you can still know this stuff and not necessarily have, I don't know what they call them, cities or these
like the powers
that people might express, because sometimes those powers are expressed just here and there. They're not something you can do all the time either.
Yeah, it's like saying, was he his miracles, or was he just a man? Were the stories of the miracles, were they just stories where they're using the miracles to kind of snap people out of, people who were close to it, to kind of snap them out and let them know, you're all these thoughts you had that you doubted about this realm not being what it is, they're right. You're confirmed. Look at this. It's a miracle. So now, you better shape up and ship out. One of those things, like, you better get your act together now, because this is real. Yeah. So I feel like, yeah, it is. And then people might get caught worshiping the miracle worker. And that's where you're worshiping the manifestations, not the source.
Right. But I feel like this is saying, like, you don't need that to experience the Tao itself. You don't need all those powers, the miracles, or anything like that.
100%.
Yeah. So on the Aleister Crowley side, to understand this mystery, one must be fulfilling one's will. And if one is not thus free, one will but gain a smattering of it. And this makes me think of, do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, which is a quote that people like to make fun of Aleister Crowley for, because they think he means that you could do whatever you want, like even evil, And that's not what he meant. I mean, at least I don't think that's what he meant.
Yeah, well, unless he was thinking do it till you're done, right? But I know what you mean
Yeah. That too. Good call.
though. But no, I know what you mean though. Exactly. It's more of it's your intuition that you're following, right? You're following your dharma, you're on your path. And that's how you can understand the mystery. But if not, then you're just gonna get, if one is not thus free. I love that. If one's not free, they're not following their dharma, they'll only gain a smattering of it. You're only gonna, again, you're gonna be seeing the manifestations, or you're gonna be worshiping the effects, not the cause. You're not gonna be focused on the causes. Sharon? Oh, you're muted.
How did I do that? I like what Spoon says. She says, experiencing life versus writing the story. And yes, absolutely, that I totally completely resonate with that. And it reminds me of I had a thought that just flew out of my head. Experiencing life versus writing the story. Oh, it reminds me of something Aaron Abke has said before, and I think I mentioned this to Spoons just recently, but about letting life be lived through you. It's like the woo way, right? Like just being, just let life be lived through you, versus like trying too hard to do something, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Gordy said, put in the chat, you are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop.
I love that Rumi quote.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
It kind of goes back to what I was saying about the holographic nature of this realm. Could it be? All right. Yeah. Let's go back up to the top here and read the last. I'll read these. So in the Stephen Mitchell version, yet mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. This source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. And I like this because it's saying that, this mystery and manifestation, this causal and effect thing, it all arises from the same source, which is darkness, or like we were saying before, mystery within mystery, the gateway to all understanding, which sounds kind of, you think, how are you going to understand a mystery? This doesn't make sense. Or how are you going to comprehend a mystery? It sounds antithetical, or what's the word? It sounds
counterintuitive.
Yeah, exactly. But again, it's like one of those parables that you can only understand once you know what they mean. And I think it's about grasping the darkness. Once you realize that it is a mystery, then you can comprehend.
Yeah. These two things, spirit and matter, so different in nature, have the same origin. Yeah, we are from source, and we have these two aspects to us. We have this spiritual aspect to us, and we have this body that we're embodying, we're living through. And they're both from the same source. And it's just this like duality that we have to manage. And it's mysterious, as it says.
It's a mystery.
Yeah.
You want to read the rest of it?
Oh, you didn't read that one?
No, you read the first part.
Oh, okay. I thought you had read it. Sorry. This unity of origin is the mystery of mysteries, but it is the gateway to spirituality.
Yep. And it says, just like the other one, darkness within darkness, this is like the mystery of mysteries. And like we were saying before, they both use gateway, which I like because it's a gateway. It's kind of like a precipice, or when people say they have an aha moment, or they have a what do you call it when you like figure something out and you're like, oh my
epiphany.
God. Yeah, they have an epiphany. That's kind of what I feel like. That's the epiphany that will lead you to spirituality, right? The epiphany that will lead you to comprehension. All right. Both knowledge and experience are real. But reality has many forms which seem to cause complexity. By using the means appropriate, we can extend ourselves beyond the barriers of such complexity and so experience the Tao. And again, this is putting it so eloquently with words, trying to get close to what they're saying, right? They're trying to touch the source of what this really is. And it's putting out just in plain English, knowledge and experience. You can look at that as the spirit and the matter.
Absolutely.
Where the knowledge is the spirit, the experience would be the matter because you're actually doing it. And it's all part of the reality. And it seems complex, but if you use the right means, then you could see past it, the barriers. And again, so instead of gateway, it says barriers here, and you can extend yourself beyond the barriers and you have that epiphany. And with that epiphany, you'll experience the Tao.
Yes. Absolutely. And then the Aleister Crowley version says the Tao is one and the day or the Te, but a phase thereof. The abyss of this mystery, there's the word mystery again, is the portal of serpent wonder. Now, I had in one of the versions, I think it was Dwight Goddard's version, he was saying that TEH, day, is most commonly interpreted as virtue. So the Tao is interpreted as like the way, but other words as well that it's interpreted as. And so you have the way, and then you have virtue. So I guess it's saying that virtue is just a phase of that. Now, I don't really know how to explain that. Maybe you have some thoughts.
Well, we could break it down with that spiritual and matter analogy again, where the Tao is spiritual and the day is more of the matter, because that's what you're living virtuously, right? You're trying to live that way.
Yeah.
And Tao, so the Tao would be more
is the concept of it.
Yeah. The spirit, the thought of it.
And day is the experience. Yeah, that makes sense. Yes. Very true. And then
of this mystery, go ahead, yeah.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say the abyss of this mystery is the portal of serpent wonder.
Portal, barriers. What was the other word? Gateway?
Gateway, yep.
There you go.
Yeah, and it's, so they're talking about, and I like how he's like the abyss of this mystery, because the abyss is a bottomless hole, right? It's darkness, it's mystery. And the abyss of this is the portal, right? So that mystery is the gateway of serpent wonder, which, you know, serpent symbolism,
wise wisdom.
Yeah. The staff, the snake, Moses' staff turned into a snake, you know,
the healing aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
As well. Yeah, that's amazing.
Think about the snake on the tree, the tree of life with the snake on it.
Yeah. Well, and then the one that was raised by Moses in the wilderness and healed, like when people looked at it, they would be healed from their serpent wounds, like they were getting bitten by snakes, and then they would get sick. And this is what, looking at the serpent on the pole is what healed them. And I think, is that the serpent of Asclepius, or sorry, the pole? I forgot what it's called.
The staff.
It gets mixed up with the one with the two serpents too.
Lucius.
Oh yeah, I get mixed up. So it's one of those.
Hermes.
Yeah, I had this thought about the abyss of this mystery. Yes, it makes me think of like the dark night of the soul, especially it was talking about darkness in the Stephen Mitchell version. That it's like, that's the portal. Your dark night of the soul wakes you up to, okay, like, hello, wake up.
Exactly. And I was going to say even further on the serpent stuff with Adam and Eve, the snake was the one who tempted them. So he was the portal to the tree of life, right? He was the one who got them to come try. He's like, come on, guy, you're going to love this.
Oh, that's true.
So he's technically the portal.
Indeed, he is crazy.
It is. All right. So
Wow.
you have
Well,
anything we want to say about these verses, or do you want to go on to one more? Because it took us about an hour to cover this.
right. So I don't know that we'll get through another verse.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Let's see. Let's just take a quick peek.
We can take a peek. Maybe we can read them.
Yeah,
they're-
seem to be, they're only 3 pieces, so maybe we could, especially
They're
now that
longer,
oh,
but yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, we'll go on and see what happens. It's 2:22 here. Oh, you're on the East Coast too.
Nice. I'm here on the East Coast right now.
Give a quick shout out to the chat. What's going on, everybody? How's it going? Looks like they're loving it. What's up, Lucachina? Welcome.
Yeah. And Gordy said, try easy, Victor Wooten. And then he said, do not try hard.
Oh, I don't like that.
Yeah. I like
Yeah,
it
there
too.
is no try. There's only do or do not. That's
Yoda. Is it Yoda?
Yeah, that's Yoda. There is no try.
Oh gosh. I remember when. Yeah.
Here, you know what we could do? Let's bring it back to us, and maybe we could talk about a little bit how these we've either embodied this first verse, or how what kind of realizations we had by listening or reading it or whatever, especially because it's the first one, it's number one. Maybe the significance of why this is number one we could talk about too. That might be something that's good. And I think that right up front, they're trying to tell you, just like we did with all these quotes we did last week and this week, that this isn't the answer. Like there is no one way to just say it, and there's like no one size fits all answer for everybody, right? The Tao that can be named is not the eternal name. So if you have somebody out there that's like trying to claim to be the guru or the master and saying that he has all the answers or she has all the answers and trying to become like a cult leader, right? It's telling you that, no, man, that's not what the Tao is about. What do you think?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. I was distracted, so I wasn't paying attention, but
No worries.
yeah, it's definitely an intro to what the rest is going to be, what the rest of the book is going to be. And it's very helpful. I think, honestly, it's helpful to me that we actually waited 2 years to get into this, because it's helped me realize a lot of things, open my mind to a lot of things. And so now I have more context to be able to make different connections. So that's what I'll say for now. You have more experience reading this book than I do.
Awesome possum. Well, I'm going to scroll up to this just on my own, just to see if there's anything else. I mean, I think I pretty much said everything while we were going through all this.
Yeah.
Kind of pertain to my life. All right. We could go back to verse 2 and see how we do with time. Lovely. Thank you again for everybody who's checking us out. Remember, you can go to my website, morelawsmoreproblems.com, click on the Over Sharon tab, and you can find all the stuff you want. And make sure you leave comments, guys, if you let us know what you think about what we're saying, or if there's something that you caught that maybe we missed, or if you have any questions, let us know. We can always answer them in the next Tao recording that we do.
We have 11 people in the chat right now, it looks like.
Ooh.
Welcome,
right, I'll go
any
ahead
newcomers.
Yeah, welcome everybody. I'll read this one. When people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad.
All right. Okay. I was going to say, do you want me to read the other one, or do you want to read the whole thing?
Yeah, go ahead. That might speed it up a little bit.
I'll read the Dwight Goddard version.
Okay.
When everyone recognizes beauty to be only a masquerade, then it is simply ugliness. In the same way, goodness, if it is not sincere, is not goodness.
Oh my goodness. I think what we can do is I could read now. I'll go on and read the Stephen Mitchell version, and then you could read the other one, and then we can go back. Or do you want to read all four, the top parts?
Yeah, we'll just do these two first, and then we'll go
Okay.
to the next one.
Being and non-being create each other. Difficult and easy support each other. Long and short define each other. High and low depend on each other. Before and after follow each other.
So existence and non-existence are incompatible. The difficult and easy are mutually opposites, just as the long and the short, the high and the low, the loud and the soft, the before and the behind are all opposites, and each reveals the other.
Therefore, the master acts without doing anything and teaches without saying anything. Things arise and she lets them come. Things disappear and she lets them go. She has, but doesn't possess. Acts, but doesn't expect. When her work is done, she forgets it. That is why it lasts forever.
And Dwight Goddard's version says, therefore, the wise man is not conspicuous in his affairs or given to much talking. Though troubles arise, he is not irritated. He produces, but does not own. He acts, but claims no merit. He builds, but does not dwell therein. And because he does not dwell therein, he never departs.
Love it. Shout out to PK. He just said, this is awesome stuff. I'm glad you guys are spending a bunch of time on this. Yeah. I think it does deserve a lot of time to go over all this stuff because people kind of, can give quick approximations of what everything means, but we're over sharing, man. This is our style, right? This is how we do it.
4 versions.
Yeah.
Just for context,
Exactly. All right. So let's see how these line up. We cannot know the Tao itself, nor see its qualities direct, but only see by differentiation. That which it manifests. Thus, that which it seems, that which is seen as beautiful is beautiful compared with that which is seen as lacking beauty. An action considered skill is so considered in comparison with another, which seems unskilled.
And Aleister Crowley's version says, just to note, the Stan Rosenthal title for this verse is Letting Go of Comparisons.
Oh, yes.
And then Aleister Crowley's is The Energy Source of the Self. So this part says, all men know that beauty and ugliness are correlatives, as are skill and clumsiness. One implies and suggests the other. So it's funny how succinct he is. It's just awesome.
Yeah, I like that. Let's scroll back up here too, and we could we'll read through these now.
Like to compare them. We didn't finish the other ones. Did you want to?
Oops, what did I just do? Well, yeah,
we read through those, and then
we read through the top part. Do you want to read through the middle parts now?
We already did these. You go to the next slide.
We did the top ones.
We read through the whole thing. We read that did we not read being and non-being create each other? Or am I going
Oh,
insane?
yeah, I did. That's right. I did. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did. So we'll just do that.
We're going insane, but we both are. No, I'm just kidding. That which a person knows he has is no. Yeah, you're right. We did do that. That which a person knows he has is known to him by that which he does not have. Okay, I'll read it again. That which a person knows he has is known to him by that which he does not have. That which he considers difficult seems so because of that which he can do with ease. One thing seems long by comparison with that which is comparatively short. One thing is high because another thing is low. Only when sound ceases is quietness known. And that which leads is seen to lead only by being followed. Wow,
very cool. Aleister Crowley's version. So also existence and non-existence pose the one the other. So also it is with ease and difficulty, length and shortness, height and lowness. Also, music with a K exists through harmony of opposites. Time and space depend on contraposition.
Ooh. In comparison, the sage in harmony with the Tao needs no comparisons. And when he makes them, he knows that comparisons are judgments, and just as relative to he who makes them into the situation as they are to that on which the judgment has been made. Through his experience, the sage becomes aware that all things change, and that he who seems to lead might also in another situation follow. So he does nothing, he neither leads nor follows. That which he does is neither big nor small. Without intent, it is neither difficult nor done with ease. His task completed, he then lets go of it, seeking no credit. He cannot be discredited. Thus, his teachings last forever, and he is held in high esteem.
Wow, I really love that one. It's very, very, wow. It just explains it, I feel. All right, Aleister Crowley. By the use of this method, the sage can fulfill his will without action and utter his word without speech. All things arise without diffidence. They grow and none interferes. They change according to their natural order, without lust of result. The work is accomplished, yet continueth in its orbit without goal. This work is done unconsciously. This is why its energy is indefatigable. Funny, I didn't look this one up, but I think we can kind of glean what it means.
Maybe we should look it up.
Okay. Do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead. You can look it up. I just wanted to, and while you're looking it up, I want to say I think it's funny because you're a so I'm
Libra?
a Cancer sun, and your sun sign is Libra, which is an air sign. And you're really digging this version that I labeled swords. And of course, you know, not that I don't like it, I am digging it. I really like how he breaks it down. But I was also drawn to the Stephen Mitchell version, which is we assigned as cup. So it's kind of funny there, right?
Yeah. How funny. Wow. Okay.
We're on to something here.
Indefatigable. Incapable of being tired out. Oh, fatigued.
Oh,
It cannot be fatigued.
indefatigable.
I would say it's indefatigable. Indefatigable.
Gotcha. It's a good word.
It is. Not yielding to fatigue, untiring. Nice. I love it. I love that. That's a great word.
All right,
So let's go back to that first piece and we'll just do all four versions and see what we get.
all right. When people say some things, see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. Now, this is kind of talking about like judgments, right? And then in the other verse here on the Dwight Goddard version, when everyone recognizes beauty to be only a masquerade, then it is simply ugliness. In the same way, goodness, if not sincere, is not goodness. So they're kind of pointing at, and again, it's like that Buddhist term that we read in the introduction where the spiritual masters, his fingers are like, his words are like fingers pointing to the moon. Try not to focus on the fingers because you can't see the moon. It's that same kind of essence of it. And I like how they're opening you up the idea of polarity. And this is the second verse, which it's definitely no mistake that they're doing this because one, they're just in verse one, they're just talking about the Tao. And now two, we get into polarity, right? It's just like the Kabbalion.
I'm going to make a quick interjection here. And so the Stan Rosenthal version, which is on the next slide, you don't have to go there just yet. But when I was reading the introduction for that, which we did not read because it's very very extensive. Like, as you can see, he's very airy, very mental, very expressive, very verbose. But anyway, he talks a lot about different things that didn't get mentioned in the other introductions. And I lost my train of thought just telling you all that. What were you saying? What's the last thing you said?
I was talking about the fingers pointing at the moon and then polarity too. That this is verse 2, and then
Yeah.
verse is opening you up to the idea of polarity with the
Well, off
about-
topic, because I can't remember what I was going to say. Off topic. This also made me think, this verse made me think of the Kybalion. I remembered what I was going to say. I think it was Stan Rosenthal's version that talked about how it seems kind of choppy, each verse, because it's not like it flows. Like the first one was about what it is. This one is just all of a sudden it's about polarity. It doesn't seem to like flow piece by piece. And I think it was he who said that it could have been the case that the guy who was asking Lao Tzu to write this for him, maybe he wrote questions down for him, and then Lao Tzu just answered each question. So verse 1 was like, okay, what is it? And then the second one was like, what is polarity? You know what I mean? So he was asking him a question, then he would write something. So that's what he said, that was something that some people might have suspected happened. Could it be? There was something else too that I just slipped out of my mind. But yeah, that there could have been different. Yeah, I can't remember.
No, I like that idea with the different questions. It's totally possible, especially in the Tao part, right? They say the first half is the Tao, and the second half is the Te.
Yeah, the virtue. Yeah. Anyway, we can go on.
Scroll down.
And I was going to say, no, Dwight Goddard's title for verse 2 was self-development. So when we go down to the next slide, we see self-development. We see letting go of comparisons. We see the energy source of the self. Interesting how the word self is used in both the 20-ish versions.
Yeah, it kind of speaks to the collective consciousness at the time, right? And these ideas of self.
Yes. I feel like that. Aleister and Dwight Goddard kind of had a similar feel to what they're doing and what they're talking about.
So
welcome, Z.
What up, Zeralas? We cannot know the Tao itself nor see its qualities direct, but only see by differentiation that which it manifests. Thus, that which is seen as beautiful is beautiful compared with that which is seen as lacking beauty. An action considered skilled is so considered in comparison with another, which seems unskilled. And again, they're kind of highlighting the duality over it.
Right. Polarity, duality. It reminds me of the Kybalion. I think I said that, right?
Yeah.
And then Aleister Crowley says, all men know that beauty and ugliness are correlatives, as are skill and clumsiness. One implies and suggests the other. Again, it's just comparisons. It's like they're all on the same spectrum. They're all on the spectrum, sorry, but one is the extreme of the other, basically, right? Is what I'm getting. And to know one extreme, you have to know the other. Like to get to know one extreme, you have to know the other extreme.
Yes, you wouldn't know light without darkness.
Yes.
Kind of like when I talk to people about, this is something I realized in my own life, even before I got into spirituality a lot. I started to realize the patterns in life when sometimes things are going really good and then sometimes things aren't going good. well, you wouldn't be able to have a good time if you didn't have a bad time. It's kind of like Buddha when it was Siddhartha, when he was a child and he was raised. His dad was a king and he raised him in a way to where he would never have to experience any suffering. Like he didn't even know. I think he was when he became a man, he was touring the city and he saw a dead person and he was like, what happened to this guy? And they're like, oh, he died. And he didn't even know death was possible. And that whole thing shattered his world and pretty much gave him a dark night of the soul. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
We want to start the second part?
Yeah. That which a person knows.
Oh, wait, no,
we gotta come back up.
to, yeah.
Being and non-being create each other. Difficult and easy support each other. Long and short define each other. High and low depend on each other. Before and after follow each other. And now, so I think the opening couple sentences, the first part is like an introduction to what polarity is. And this is more of a description in real life, what, how you can recognize polarity and the differences, and not that one's like bad or good. It's just that they're just two sides of the same coin.
Absolutely. Like you said, this is just giving more examples, more explaining. So Dwight Goddard's version. So existence and non-existence are incompatible. That reminds me of, I think it was last week where I was talking about non-existence is like it doesn't exist. The difficult and easy are mutually opposites, just as the long and the short, the high and the low, the loud and the soft, the before and the behind are all opposites, and each reveals the other. And I think it's kind of like these things are on the spectrum of being the extremes of each other, right?
Yep. It's like a thermometer.
Yeah. Like where do you start saying that it's cold? Well, it's relative, right? Did you?
Yeah, if you're from Arizona, then you might get colder,
way more easily.
But if you're from Alaska, all right. That which a person knows he has is known to him by that which he does not have. And that which he considers difficult seems so because of that which he can do with ease. One thing seems long by comparison with that which is comparatively short. One thing is high because another thing is low. Only when sound ceases is quietness known. And that which leads is seen to lead only by being followed. And again, it's highlighting more of these examples of polarity in the real world, but he's doing it in such a, like you were saying earlier, verbose way of really explaining it.
Yeah. And I like how he uses that, knowing this, because I think the other verses, if you go back up, I don't think they're talking about, I don't know if they use the word know.
I don't see it.
No, they don't. So he's personalizing it,
Yeah.
Those are more like kind of like a step back, and he's going, let's see, he has known to him by that which he does not have. What you have by that which you don't have. And what is difficult because of what you can do easily.
Yeah. He's putting it in a reference that it's like like you said, a more personal point of view.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good say.
Yeah. And then the Aleister Crowley version says, so also existence and non-existence pose the one the other. I don't know. Maybe that's a typo. Maybe that's an older way of saying stuff. So also is it with ease and difficulty, length and shortness, height and lowness. Also, music exists through harmony of opposites. Time and space depend on contraposition. He has to go all esoteric on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think what he's saying in the beginning part is so also existence and non-existence pose the one the other. So basically he's saying you have the one on one hand and the other on the other side. So
yeah. maybe it's like they used to say pose instead of oppose, like opposites.
Yeah.
And then notice how Aleister says existence and non-existence. Doesn't Dwight Goddard say the same thing?
Yep. And it was in that time frame, the same.
Yeah. So there you go. The same consciousness going on. What did you call it?
Oh, the collective consciousness.
Yeah.
Or maybe one of the other, well, maybe Alistair read Dwight's also.
He might have, but I mean, it's so close.
Yeah.
Like he was already in the process of writing this, I think.
Yeah, that's very possible. Maybe
So
the words that, like you said, just the words they used at the time to express it.
yeah. And then music, harmony of opposites. That's also like, it's interesting how he adds this artsy aspect to it. And the others never even considered it at all, that I could tell.
It also reminds me of the trivium and the quadrivium, where they talk about music and then
Yes.
Yeah. So
and then this time and space thing, which is it's just a 3D concept, right? The time and space, this 3D reality we're living in.
Yep. And he basically saying that they depend on it. So you're in this physical realm, the physical realm depends on the polar opposites. Right? You have to have in order to
yeah, absolutely. Good call. I like it.
In comparison.
Wait, not yet.
No.
Scroll back up.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
No, you're right.
I wonder if I should break them up differently. Is this a good way to break it up, or?
No, I like it. We might even be able to. I like how we went through and read the whole verse.
And then do piece it up
again.
Yeah,
maybe we should do it like that. Yeah, but for this one, let's continue. But yeah, because I think they make sense and they flow together. You know?
Okay.
Just thinking about that now.
All right, sounds good.
Therefore, the master acts without doing anything and teaches without saying anything. Things arise and she lets them come. Things disappear and she lets them go. She has but doesn't possess, acts but doesn't expect. When her work is done, she forgets it. That is why it lasts forever. So right here, this is kind of like a conclusion, basically. You think of an essay that you had to write when you were a child. You have the introduction, the body, and the conclusion, or whatever. I get all that right. So this is kind of like in conclusion, everybody. Therefore, and that's the same thing as therefore. Therefore is like in conclusion. So they're saying everything now, what we said. Now, therefore, the master acts without doing. So because of these poles and because of the way the universe breaks down or reality works, therefore, a person who has mastered this, they act without doing anything. They teach without saying. So the act without doing anything comes back to the Wei Wu Wei, where you're doing, not doing, where it's just the attachments, right?
The flow state.
The flow state, exactly. You're in the flow state. Boom. Things arise and you let them come. Things disappear and you let them go. Because you're in total acceptance of the moment in every moment.
Absolutely.
Accepting things as they come, and you're not a victim.
I love that. I love it so much.
And when your work is done, you forget it, right? That's why it lasts forever, because you're not worried about, like, if we put videos out and we were worried about all our views. And of course, we check our view count. We're excited when it's higher, but it's not like we let it bum us out when one isn't really that high. And last week's episode had like 150 views, which is really cool for
nice
for us. Yeah. So I'm excited.
Yeah. I love that. When her work is done. And of course, Stephen Mitchell used, him and her, in every verse, he would use one or the other. He said it can be either one.
Yep.
When his or her work is done, he or she forgets it. That's why it lasts forever. The Dwight Goddard version says, therefore, the wise man is not conspicuous in his affairs or given to much talking. Though troubles arise, he is not irritated. He produces but does not own. He acts but claims no merit. He builds but does not dwell therein. And because he does not dwell therein, he never departs. So I guess this the way I feel like I have somehow been able to embody some of this in the last several years. And it wasn't even because I was reading this Tao book, but I got to the point where I was like feeling too much in control, like needing to control like certain things. Like if a friend said, let's meet up, and then they didn't meet up, then I'd be upset because they promised and then we didn't. And, that sort of thing. And I started to just be like, you know what? Just let it be. Like, if they want to meet and they cancel on me, I'll just have more time for myself. Like, if they said, let's meet at a coffee shop and blah, 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 I'd bring a book or my iPad and I would just be ready to spend time with myself and enjoy the moment. And then I wouldn't have to be upset that someone canceled on me. So like, just like embracing the moment, the last several years has become a lot easier for me. And it's been great. It's been very, very helpful.
Yeah. It's
To
kind of
not
like,
worry,
it's like looking for a silver lining in the clouds. It's like whatever situation happens, you can always look to the silver lining, or you can always look at the positive things that might happen because of this. Like if you get into a car accident, you could be upset, but then you might get a new car, or you might meet somebody. Like I know somebody who got into a car accident with somebody and then ended up marrying them. Like,
oh wow.
yeah. So I mean, you never know. They had a
And
daughter.
we have a friend in the chat who might be okay with us saying it, but she got into an accident. Well, I will say it's spoons, okay? And the interesting part about this story is that she had told me some days, maybe weeks prior, that she felt like she was going to get into an accident, but she just didn't know, like, obviously details or anything. She just was just like, I have this feeling. And if I'm remembering correctly, she can correct me. But then she's also told me like, but I have a feeling it's everything's just going to be okay. Like I don't need to worry about it. And lo and behold, it does happen. But what ends up happening is the car gets labeled as totaled, which is fine because she gets to pick the car that she wanted in the first place. And it was like a brand new car because she got more than she thought for what she was going to get. And it just ended up working out. Yeah, there were little like things along the way, but eventually it was just, yeah, she got a new car and she
Yep.
was happy about that.
Yep. And she could have been in despair, been like, why did this happen to me? And be all upset, and it could ruin her whole vibe. Like I was talking about with the poker game, right? A car accident is like a shitty hand at poker. You get a shitty hand and you lose, but you might learn something about the opponent. You might be like, oh, I saw that he fidgeted or that he did this. So now later on down the line, when all your chips are on the line and maybe all his chips are on the line, you can make the decision that helps you because of your past knowledge. And if you didn't lose that hand earlier that you were so upset about, you would have never won the tournament, right? And if when you lost that hand, you got all upset, and I see people do it all the time,
It might have screwed up your vibe.
they just play all aggressive and just get all mad. Yeah. And then they get knocked out within a couple hands, when they still had chips and they could have built on them. So yeah.
Yeah.
The poker analogy.
So anyway, that's the Stephen Mitchell, Dwight Goddard.
Let's go to the stand. Look at how long that was. In comparison, the sage, in harmony with the Tao, needs no comparisons. And when he makes them, knows that comparisons are judgments. And just as relative to he who makes them, and to the situation, as they are to that on which the judgment has been made. It's so wordy. I love it. Through his experience, the sage becomes aware that all things change, and that he who seems to lead might also, in another situation, follow. So he does nothing. He neither leads nor follows. That which he does is neither big nor small. Without intent, it is neither difficult nor done with ease. His task completed, he then lets go of it. Seeking no credit, he cannot be distracted.
Discredited.
Seeking no credit, he cannot be discredited. Thus his teaching lasts forever, and he is held in high esteem. So something I wanted to bring in here, I already lost it. That's all right. There's something I wanted to focus on. So, and now I remember what I was going to say. Basically, what he's trying to say here, or what I would say, is that when he says that, and that he who seems to lead might also in another situation follow. So he does nothing. He neither leads nor follows. Now, in a certain situation, some people might see him as a leader, and some people might see him as a follower in the other situations, but in his own mind, he's doing neither. And I think what this kind of correlates to is what we were talking about a few episodes ago when we were talking about, is there a such thing as good or evil? And we kind of broke it down to, in the physical world, you can kind of point at good and evil, but in the spiritual world, it's all part of the plan, right? And so you're thinking from a spiritual lens, you're not leading or following, you're just going with the flow, and you're following your dharma and doing what you're supposed to do. But in the physical, it could seem that, yeah, he is leading in this one, and then he's following, and he's, he's tall now and he's short hair or whatever it is, he did. But in your mind, how are you choosing to feel about all these things? It's like I say about free will, the only true free will we really have is to choose to feel how we want about a situation in that moment. Are we a victim or are we a victor? And I feel like that's kind of what this is. And it's not getting attached to it, right? It's just letting it happen as it unfolds.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts about the well, let me read this other one and then we can talk about it. Aleister Crowley's version says, by the use of this method, the sage can fulfill his will without action and utter his word without speech. I did notice that these two versions use sage. I didn't even mean for that to happen, but the two verses, or the two versions above, use, I think, master and wise man. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So interesting. The master, the wise man, the sage. Let's see. And utter his word without speech. All things arise without diffidence. They grow and none interferes. They change according to their natural order without lust of result. Interesting. The work is accomplished, yet continueth in its orbit without goal. I like that. This work is done unconsciously. This is why its energy is indefatigable. It is not able to be fatigued. I like that. I like this. I want to kind of comprehend this like last section about the teaching lasting forever. I guess because and I think this is what the other thing I wanted to say about the various versions that we're talking, or sorry, the various introductions that we're talking about, the master seeking no credit. So Lao Tzu actually could possibly just mean old wise man, or, a master, someone's master, and that didn't want to be named because the master didn't want to be named. They didn't want credit. So anyway, that to me is, I really like that, because it's really the ego that wants credit, right? It's like, no, me, look at me. I'm the one. I said that joke. I did this, the Key and Peele. That's my joke. I said that.
Exactly.
So it's always the ego that is seeking this credit, right? But if you're living your dharma, if you're walking your dharma, you're living in the present moment, you're in your flow state, you're going with a flow. Well, who is living that life through you but the source of all things? if you're just letting your life be lived, why do you want credit for it? Like the credit's going to the ego, not to the source, not to source energy. I just thought of all that right now.
No, I like that. And it reminds me, I could just remember the thought that I had. Well, I could say one thing that popped up was, says, thus his teaching lasts forever. And you could look at it in one view where when somebody takes credit, say they're like a cult leader or a religious figure, and they're trying to say, you have to worship me, and they're saying these words, they could be saying the true words, but later, if this person gets discredited because, say, he does a horrible crime or whatever, people are going to look at the words that he said and they're going to throw everything down and right.
Very,
So
very
somebody
good
who's
point.
not taking credit, this truth is going to last. The
Oh
teaching.
my gosh, I love that.
Thank you.
I love that. That makes so much sense too. Like, again, because it's not this egoic person doing and saying all these things. These truths are from source. So why would you take credit for these truths that are from source? Because you might go and discredit all of that by doing something, quote, evil. And then no one's going to believe anything you said at all, like anything. They don't even want to listen to you. It's like this person that we sometimes listen to, Brandon and I, that some people don't like that guy. And because of one thing, they will not look at any of the work, which is fine. I mean, that's, if your intuition tells you not to look at something, don't look at it, because that's you need to listen to yourself first and foremost. But that's what happens. That's exactly what happens. And then everything else that's all the work and all the stuff that they've talked about and done gets discredited because of something that person did in the past, or maybe allegedly they might still be doing it. Who knows?
100%. I'm going to give a shout out to Robo Honky, still the best name on YouTube. What's up, Robo Honky? No, I agree exactly. And that other thing I was going to say popped back up too, and then I lost it. That's all right. What are you going to do? You can't win them all.
Well, maybe read it one more time and maybe it'll come back to you.
Therefore, the master acts without doing anything and teaches without saying anything. Things arise and she lets them go.
Come.
Huh? Oh, she lets them come. Oh, things arise and she lets them come. Things disappear and she lets them go. She has but doesn't possess. Oh, that I remember what I was going to say. Thank you, Sharon. Great.
You're welcome.
Which is like, did I already lose it, man? All right. So you know what it is? I got to finish reading it. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Things arise and she lets them come. Things disappear and she lets them go. She has but doesn't possess. Acts but doesn't expect. When her work is done, she forgets it. That is why it lasts forever. Okay, I'm going to say this before I forget. It's all about external validation, right? People who are looking for external validation, they want credit because they like that feeling of getting that validation from people. It makes them feel whole. And when Sharon and I talk about, you could actually get that feeling from inside, that through self-love and work, and you realize that you are good enough, and you don't, not that to get praise and acclaim from other people is bad, but that's not what you're living for. You're not attached to it, right? You're like as a wedding DJ, I could go out and do my best, and then I could be worried about the crowd. And if for some reason things didn't work out, I could be all bummed out. Or I could just say to myself, I did my best. Not every time people are going to be jumping around, dancing, and everyone's going to be going crazy. I could just only do my best. Right.
Mm, absolutely. I just love that whole concept of like letting go and just being. And like, it's basically have no fear is what it is. It boils down to there's nothing to fear. And I feel like that's kind of a synchronicity for me, because the other day I was talking to Spoons And then we were talking about something that maybe I could have been worried about. And then she said something to the effect of like, don't worry or something like that. I can't remember the context. And then I was listening to a song as I was typing, messaging her. And I was listening to a song in Spanish and the words were like, have no fear in Spanish. And I was like, okay, okay, thank you. I get the message.
That's
So,
pretty amazing.
yeah.
So many synchronicities. Did we
Totally.
read? Did you read the? Oh, we read them all, right?
Yeah, scroll down again.
Scroll down. Okay.
Oh yeah, Joe says we got started early, really early today. Yeah, he just got home from work. Welcome, Joe.
Welcome, Joe. What is going on?
Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, that's why its energy is a new word that we learned today, indefatigable. That means it is not able to be fatigued.
So true, because if you're not worried about the outcome, if you're only focused on doing the best job you can, then it's not going to hinder you from doing your job in the future. Like if I did a wedding and it didn't go so well, like maybe not a lot of people danced or whatever, I could let that bother me, and then I could have a wedding the next day and I could be like, oh man, I hope that doesn't happen. And I could just second guess myself, where I could just let it go and be like, today's a new day, everybody. We're going to crush.
Yeah. The no fear again,
Yeah, exactly. I'm watching this guy down there, the neighbor over there sanding. He's like building a concrete patio, and he's sanding concrete now with no mask or nothing. Like there's like dust clouds of concrete around this old guy. That's crazy. Maybe I should tell him, wear a mask. Where's your mask, buddy? That's the correct use for a mask. Yeah, I bet this guy out there, he probably wore masks at stores, right?
But he's not doing it right now.
But he's not doing it right now. Anyway, good for him.
Oh, lovely.
He looks like he does great craftsmanship, and he's older. So, sometimes you're just like, screw it.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, it's awesome. In 2 hours, we went through 2 verses. So that was good.
Yeah, I think that's exactly perfect. So maybe we could keep this pace going. I guess we'll just see what happens. But
yeah, we'll try to
thank you
do
again to the chat. You guys are amazing. And it looks like we're probably going to be doing these things earlier from now on. So look for these earlier. And if you have any suggestions, or like I said, or any questions about what we went over, just let us know. We'll talk about it in the next episode, and try to come join the chat if you're watching this sometime in the future when we do these live, or when we premiere our episodes, usually every Thursday. And you could follow us, make sure, click subscribe, click that bell. So every time we go live, you know it. You don't have to worry about it. You get that little notification. You could say, oh, it's over Sharon time. Let's do it. Make sure you hit thumbs up. If you like what you see, go to morelawsmoreproblems.com. If you want to get these in just audio form, go through Podbean. And you could support us there. There's several ways to support us, but if you can't, that's fine. We get it. We just asked if you feel like you can and you have extra money, go ahead. But if not, it's fine. Just be here and talk and hang out with us, because that's really why we do this. This is kind of like our self-work, and why not share it with other people, especially if they find it entertaining, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we end this lovely episode?
Only just to reiterate that there's really nothing to fear.
That's right. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. And I know the guy that said that's probably a terrible warmonger. But again, anybody could speak the truth, right? It's up to you to eat the meat and spit out the bones, as they say.
Exactly. That's what I say about everybody. I can listen to multiple perspectives. I don't have to agree with everything.
That's right. Spit out them bones, because only dogs chew on bones, right?
Or eat the cherry and spit out the pits, right?
There you go. That's what they used to say in like in the late 70s, early 80s, like, this is the pits. Like if something sucked, like, this is the
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Right? This is the pits. Well, the show is not the pits. And what also is crazy? This is episode 72. And
it's your birthday
That's my birthday numbers, July 2nd. And you went
That's
to
crazy. And last night I went to a game.
score with
Yankees
7-2.
game. Yeah, that's so crazy.
And a 9. 7-2 is a 9, and we got the 9 of swords earlier in the beginning.
Oh, look at that. Great.
Yeah, a lot of 6 today. So and
I
we
love it.
started at 1:11 p.m. Eastern Standard, and today's 8:03, which is an 11 also. So
Holy smokes.
all these cool,
I love it.
all these cool.
Stuff
All
that
right,
we did
well,
not mean to happen. It just happened that
yeah,
way.
it does just happen. I noticed that a lot of our dates come up on 11s or on some cool dates.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
we might have to do another live stream on the 11th day of the 9th month of this year again, like we did last year. That was so funny. We did a live stream on that day.
Oh, that's right. Last year we did that.
Yeah.
That was fun.
All righty. Well, thank you guys so much for being here and hanging out with us. Thank you guys in the future who will watch this. And what do we say to the good people, Sharon?
That if you wait, oh shoot. I was gonna say the old one, but that once you start oversharing,
Then you totally stop being a Karen.
that's right. I got distracted because it's like 3:12 now, and we just missed the 3:11. We're over by a minute, which is fine.
We're over Sharon.
Yeah.
How dare us? That's all right. I used to mess up the end of it all the time, so it's fine that you did. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Take care.
All right. Bye, everybody.
And it's done.